the male lead tells us, "My name is Chi Shu and my mom's name is Yue. When my mom was alive, she used to tell me that her bad times began the moment she got married. Her life had turned into a complete hell. That man destroyed all her feelings and happiness. This is why I have decided to change everything." Now, we are shown a scene from 2051 where Chi Shu is time traveling to the past, and he mentions that this project was created by his professor, Lu Xiao. He successfully travels to 2021. After that, he looks at a map to find a way to meet his mom. We are then shown a high school scene where all the students are running to see their results. The female lead, Yue, pushes everyone aside to check her result, and she is very happy despite coming last. A girl then approaches her and thanks her, saying, "You saved me from coming last." After that, Yue bumps into the main lead, Lu Xiao. At night, Yue is walking home alone and feels like someone is following her. However, the one following her is none other than her future son, Chi Shu. Yue tries to hide from him, and when he gets close, she puts a box on his head. But Chi Shu grabs her leg and stops her. Yue then screams, "I didn't see anything. I know that if I see you, you'll kill me. You can take all my money, but please let me go." Chi Shu then shows her a teddy brooch, which shocks Yue as she exclaims, "This is my teddy brooch. How did you get it?" Chi Shu steps out of the box and says, "Mom, I am your son." In the next scene, Chi Shu tells her that he came from the future, but Yue doesn't believe him. Chi Shu then tells her all the small details about her, which makes Yue ask, "How do you know so much about me?" Well, with the internet, you can find out anything these days, but stop calling me mom. You cannot be my son. We then see a future scene where Yue comes to Chi Shu and asks, "Where did you go after school today?" Chi Shu replies, "To a friend's house." Yue asks, "Which friend? A boy or a girl? And what are you hiding in your hand?" Chi Shu then pulls out a box and puts a mouse in her hand, causing Yue to scream, "You cannot be my son." Remembering this, Chi Shu tells Yue, "Yes, Mom, you always used to say that I am not your son," but Yue still doesn't believe him. Chi Shu then says, "You believe in science, right?" In the next scene, they both go to get a DNA test. Yue asks him, "You said you came from the future, so what will happen to me in the future?" Chi Shu replies, "In the future, everyone will deceive you and leave you. You will die at the age of 47. This is why I came to change your future, and that will only happen if you change your future husband." Hearing this, Yue asks, "So, who do you want my future husband to be?" Chi Shu replies, "Lu Xiao." Yue is shocked to hear this. We are then shown a flashback scene where Yue is sitting in the school garden burning some Coke bottles. Lu Xiao sees this and thinks there is a fire, so he starts spraying water with a hose, soaking Yue. She asks, "Where is the fire?" Lu Xiao replies, "It's out." Yue then asks, "Who is going to apologize to me?" At that moment, their director arrives and makes Yue clean everything and run 5 laps around the playground as punishment. Lu Xiao then tells the director, "I have made the banner. It just needs to be printed." Yue takes the USB from him and says, "I will get it printed." She then accidentally bumps into a tree because of Lu Xiao. In the next scene, she goes to a shop to get the banner printed, and the shopkeeper says, "Okay, I will get it done and send it directly to the director's office." When she gets home, she inserts a USB into her laptop and realizes it's the one with the banner. She realizes she gave the wrong USB for printing. She rushes back to get it, but sees the shopkeeper has already left to deliver it to the director's office. She runs to the school, sneaks into the director's office to retrieve the banner, but Lu Xiao is also there. Yue accidentally steps on his foot, causing both to scream. Hearing their voices, the director comes in. In the next scene, the director scolds her, "You were stealing in my office? Do you have the guts? Is there a love story between you two?" Yue responds, "A love story with him is impossible." The director then says, "Both of you write an apology note and submit it before school ends." Yue thinks to herself, "Is this boy bad luck? Since I met him, my life has been ruined." She then sees the shopkeeper who made the banner and he gives it to her. Suddenly, Lu Xiao appears in front of her, causing her to drop the banner, which was about her idol. In the next scene, they are sitting together writing apology notes. Yue comments, "You seem experienced. Looks like you have written many apology notes before." Lu Xiao responds, "You talk too much." Yue then peeks outside the office and, seeing the director coming, grabs one of Lu Xiao's apology notes. But the director doesn't like it and asks her to rewrite it. Lu Xiao then shows the director another apology note, which he likes, and sends him home. The note Yue submitted was written incorrectly by Lu Xiao. Remembering all this, Yue says, "He can never be my future husband." Just then, a doctor comes in with the DNA test results. Yue is shocked to see that they are positive. The next morning, Yue's alarms start running, which she turns off and goes back to sleep. But then several alarms start ringing at once, causing her to scream in frustration. Meanwhile, Chi Shu is eating when his digital ring alerts him that his target is nearby. Now we see Lu Xiao reading a book when he notices a man scamming some children. Lu Xiao catches the scam and says to the man, "You are cheating these children. For this, you could face 30 days in jail and a fine of 50,000 yuan. Please return their money." The man returns the children's money and runs away. Then Chi Shu comes over and says, "You are the top student in your school, right? I'm sure we can become good friends." But Lu Xiao ignores him and starts to leave. Chi Shu then says, "You're reading a book about building a time travel machine, right? I'm sure that in the future, people will succeed in time travel." Lu Xiao, excited, says, "I'm also investigating this topic. Can I add you on WeChat?" Chi Shu takes his phone and saves Yue's number instead, saying, "You'll see, one day you'll become a great scientist and your project will definitely be successful." Lu Xiao thanks him and leaves. On the other hand, we see Yue, who feels like everything that happened yesterday was a dream. But then Chi Shu arrives with breakfast for her. Yue, pinching him, says, "Am I still dreaming? What are you doing in my house?" Chi Shu replies, "This is my mom's house. If I don't come here, where else would I go?" Yue, irritated, goes back to sleep. Chi Shu goes to her room and says, "Mom, the water will be turned off soon, so you should take a bath." But Yue says, "I've been living in this house for 10 years, and this has never happened." Saying this, she goes back to sleep. When she wakes up and goes to bathe, she sees that the water has indeed been turned off. She says, "If I go to school like this, they will kick me out." Chi Shu then says, "I have already prepared hot water for you." As they look at each other, they realize they look quite similar. The next morning, Yue is going to school, and Chi Shu is following her. Yue asks, "Since why you are following me? Don't you have any work to do?" Chi Shu replies, "I want you to pursue your future husband." Yue says, "Why should I believe you? And anyway, there's no match between me and Lu Xiao." Chi Shu tells her to check her phone. Yue is shocked to see that she has a friend request from Lu Xiao. She wonders, how did he get my number? She goes to take a taxi, but Chi Shu pulls her to the bus stand where it's raining heavily. Chi Shu realizes that Lu Xiao is also coming there, so he takes Yue's umbrella and runs away. Lu Xiao arrives with an umbrella and Yue takes shelter under it. But Lu Xiao steps aside, giving her his umbrella and says, "I don't share umbrellas with others." They both board the bus, and when it suddenly breaks, Yue's phone falls. Lu Xiao picks it up and gives it to her, and Yue accepts his friend request. When they reach school, Yue receives a message from Lu Xiao, which surprises her. A senior stops her because she has a brooch on her school uniform. The senior takes the brooch. In the next scene, Yue goes to the director's office to get her brooch back. Lu Xiao arrives and says, "Are you stealing from the director's office?" Yue says, "I am not stealing. Anyway, keep this a secret." She hears the director approaching, so she hides under a table. The director talks to Lu Xiao, and Yue bumps her head on the table, revealing herself. After leaving the office, Yue asks Lu Xiao, "Why didn't you save me?" Lu Xiao says, "Because I never lie." Saying this, he leaves. On the other hand, we see Chi Shu struggling to use any of the household appliances because they are quite old-fashioned to him. In the next scene, Lu Xiao messages Yue saying, "I want to ask you a question." Yue thinks to herself, "The top student in school wants to ask me a question. Who always comes last?" Lu Xiao asks her a question related to time travel, and Yue sends him a sticker in response. Suddenly, Lu Xiao arrives, causing Yue to drop her phone on her face. Angry, she says, "Now you have to take responsibility for this." Lu Xiao walks up to her and says, "Okay, I will take responsibility." They look at each other for a while. In the next scene, Lu Xiao takes her to a lab. Yue says, "Why did you bring me here and what is all this stuff?" On the other hand, we see Chi Shu has made a mess of the house. When Yue returns and sees the mess, she yells at Chi Shu, but her dad already present there and scolds her. "What have you done to your house? Are you a little girl?" Yue thinks, if Chi Shu is back at this moment, how will I explain him to dad? Her dad says, "You roam around with your phone all day but don't reply to our calls. That's why I had to come personally to invite you to dinner." She tries to send her dad away, but Chi Shu stands at the door and says, "Are you Yue's father? My name is Chi Shu and I am her tuition teacher." Yue thinks to herself, what a liar. She then says, "Sorry, sir, I forgot to inform you that I won't be able to take the class today. So, can we study some other day?" Hearing this, Chi Shu leaves. In the next scene, Lu Xiao is going somewhere, and Yue sees him and follows him. Lu Xiao goes to a strange place and starts experimenting. Seeing this, Yue screams that there is going to be an explosion, and, scared, she clings to Lu Xiao, causing both of them to fall down. Yue then says to him, "What were you doing? You could have gotten hurt." Lu Xiao replies, "I was experimenting. I can only continue if you get off me." Yue moves away from him, and there is an explosion. In the next scene, Chi Shu goes to the hospital to visit Yue and sees Lu Xiao with a burnt hand. He asks Lu Xiao, "Why didn't you save her?" Lu Xiao replies, "I don't even know her." Then Chi Shu sees Yue talking to a nurse. When he approaches, he realizes that the nurse is Yue's friend, Shu Ling. We then see a scene from the future where Shu Ling has become very fat because she ate too many snacks and fast food. Remembering this, he says to Shu Ling, "Since when have you become so thin?" Shu Ling replies, "Have we met before?" Chi Shu says, "I'm Yui's cousin." We then find out that someone else was injured in the explosion and is blackmailing Lu Xiao. Lu Xiao says to him, "There was only a sound of an explosion. You didn't suffer any damage. I noticed that this hospital needs a cleaner, and judging by your hands, you've been doing cleaning for many years, so you can apply for a job here." Hearing this, Yue thinks to herself, "Studying makes a person so smart, right?" Then Chi Shu says to Shu Ling, "You need to go home, right? I'll drop you off." Saying this, he takes her with him. In the next scene, they go to the supermarket together. He says, "A friend of mine looks exactly like you, but she's a bit fatty." Shu Ling starts buying junk food, but Chi Shu puts it back. Shu Ling says, "I live alone, so I don't feel like cooking." But Chi Shu puts all her junk food back so she won't get fat in the future. In the next scene, Chi Shu is explaining to Yue how to pursue Lu Xiao. Yue asks, "Have you been single for 20 years? Or do you have a girlfriend?" Chi Shu doesn't reply. The next day, Yue is standing at the school gate, and when Lu Xiao arrives, she says, "What a coincidence. We both arrived at school at the same time." During the rest hour, while Lu Xiao is eating, Yue goes up to him and says, "Out of all the people in school, only we two came to eat at the same time. What a coincidence." Lu Xiao picks up her fallen hair and says, "Get your treatment on time." In the next scene, she is standing outside the boys' washroom. When Lu Xiao comes out, she says, "What a coincidence out of all the people in school." Lu Xiao interrupts and says, "This is not a coincidence. No girl stands outside the male toilet." Saying this, he leaves. After returning home, Yue is looking closely at Chi Shu and thinks to herself, "He looks like me, but not at all like Lu Xiao." Then she says, "You are lying about that future husband." Chi Shu says, "Mom, why would I come all the way here? To lie to you?" The next day, Yue is being scolded by the director for her low marks. Just then, Lu Xiao arrives. The director says to him, "The college entrance exams are coming up, and you are very good at studying." Yue says, "I will pass with Lu Xiao's help." The director says, "It's good that you want to improve, but I have some doubts about how you suddenly changed." In the next scene, Yue goes to Lu Xiao to ask questions, and he answers many of them. Yue says, "From now on, I'll ask only one question a day. If you answer all my questions in one day, how will it work? Let's save some for tomorrow." In the next scene, she goes to the library and says to Lu Xiao, "Today, I won't ask you any questions, but I want you to fill out this page." Lu Xiao says, "I don't do this." Yue requests him a lot, and finally, Lu Xiao agrees. On parents-teacher meeting day, the teacher asks Yue, "Where is your dad?" Yue says, "He is busy, so he can't come." Just then, Chi Shu arrives and says to the teacher, "I am her cousin." After the meeting, a teacher says to Chi Shu, "We heard you are planning to send Yue abroad for studies. If so, tell her to work hard." Chi Shu says, "For us, her happiness is more important than studying. I know she comes last in class, but it doesn't matter to us." Hearing this, the teacher leaves. Yue then says to him, "Where did you learn all this?" Chi Shu replies, "From you." Now we see a future scene where Chi Shu has hit a child. Yue says to the child's mom, "If two kids are fighting, it's not just one's fault. I only believe in my child's word." Now we see that Yui's exams continue for several days, and she writes all the answers, remembering the questions she asked Lu Xiao every day. After the exams, their winter vacation starts. Yue goes to Lu Xiao's house and calls for him, but his dad sees her instead. Lu Xiao tells his dad, "Dad, I'll take the trash out." Using this as an excuse, he goes to meet Yue. When he gets there, Yue gifts him shoes. Lu Xiao refuses to take them, but Yue forces them on him. Lu Xiao then gives her a trash bag and says, "These are my notes, which are no longer useful to me, so you can keep them." Yue has also brought crackers, and they light them, wishing each other a happy new year. After winter vacation, Yue goes to check her results and starts looking for her name from the last position. However, she is shocked to see that her name appears on the first list. A girl then says, "Because of you, I came last." But Yue happily leaves. In the next scene, Chi Shu comes out of his room and asks Yue, "Why are you sitting here in the middle of the night?" Yue then calls him over and shows him her report card. Chi Shu is also shocked to see her results. Just then, Yue receives a call, goes to her room, and answers it. It was her friend Zhao Yang who says, "I saw your post, your results are great. We should celebrate. Can we meet tomorrow?" Yue agrees. The next day, Yue is waiting for Zhao Yang at a restaurant. She calls him and says, "You haven't come yet. I've been waiting for a while." Zhao Yang replies, "Can we meet later? I have to go for training now. Yue responds, if you were so busy, you should have told me earlier, and hangs up. She then tells the waiter to pack her order. She takes the food to school, where she sees that Lu Xiao is on duty for checking today. She says to him, you probably haven't eaten, let's eat together. Lu Xiao replies, don't you know that leaving school during lunchtime is not allowed? The director is waiting for you in the office. Hearing this, Yue goes inside. In the next scene, the director scolds her, saying, all your answers are the same as a student named Yang Xiao, and Yang Xiao is among the top 3 students in the class. Yue responds, do you think I cheated? If our answers are the same, why do you think only I cheated? She leaves angrily. Outside, Lu Xiao tries to give her some notes, but Yue angrily says, I am a cheater. What would you understand? You are a professor, and walks away. When she gets home, Chi Shu has made a lot of food for her, but then Yue starts crying. Chi Shu says, I know you're emotional because of my cooking, but why are you crying? Yue says, I am a cheater. I need to erase my lifeline, but which one is my lifeline? Chi Shu comforts her with a story, making her feel better. Just then, there's a knock on the door. It's Yang Xiao, the girl whose answers were the same as Yue's. She says, I'm sorry, I cheated. I copied the last answer from you when you went to the washroom. Lu Xiao came to me. Now, in a flashback, we see Lu Xiao going to Yang Xiao and asking, did you cheat? Yang Xiao replies, why would I cheat? I've always been on top, unlike that last-ranked girl. Lu Xiao says, I didn't mention any names. How did you know I was talking about the last-ranked girl? After hearing this, Yue wonders why he did this for her. The next day, Yue sits with Lu Xiao with her food and says, if you want to say something, just say it. Lu Xiao says, I'm used to eating alone. Yue says, I wanted to thank you for talking to the director for me. Since you helped me, I'll treat you to dinner tomorrow. Lu Xiao tries to refuse, but she leaves after giving him the address. The next day, she goes to the dinner and says, you were waiting for me even though I'm half an hour late. Lu Xiao says, I've learned that one should always keep their promise. As she goes inside, the waiter says, the restaurant is booked. I've informed him, but he is still waiting for you. Yue calls Chi Shu and tells him everything. Chi Shu says, you should cook for him yourself. I know you can't tell the difference between onions and garlic, but bring him home and I'll handle the rest. Yue tells Lu Xiao, you can't even imagine where I'm going to take you. Lu Xiao says, to your home? Yue replies, couldn't you pretend not to know? Lu Xiao says, all right, tell me where you are taking me. In the next scene, Yue brings him home. Lu Xiao wants to leave, but then he sees some equipment, possibly left by Chi Shu on purpose. He asks Yue, is this all yours? Yue says, yes, I like to study quantum mechanics in my free time. Sit down, I'll make you some food. He goes inside to look at the equipment. Then she goes to the kitchen and tells Chi Shu, he's sitting outside and you're still cooking. Lu Xiao knocks on the kitchen door and offers to help, but Yue declines. Lu Xiao starts looking around her house. Then Chi Shu sneaks out. Yue comes out quickly with the food, and seeing this, Lu Xiao starts looking for a delivery box. Yue says, you think this about me? I made all this. Meanwhile, we see Shu Ling, whose colleague is asking her to change shifts, but Shu Ling has already reached home. She reluctantly agrees. Chi Shu takes her phone and says, baby, it's our anniversary today. If anyone tries to ruin it, I'll tear them apart. He hangs up and says, you should learn to say no when needed. Shu Ling says, but I can't hurt my colleague's feelings. Chi Shu replies, she's not your boss who pays you. Just then, Shu Ling gets a call from the hospital because her mom is sick. She rushes out and Chi Shu follows her. Meanwhile, Yue and Lu Xiao are having dinner together. Lu Xiao says, you're different from what I thought. Yue asks, how so? Lu Xiao replies, you eat more than I expected. In the next scene, Chi Shu returns home and sees Yue asleep while waiting for him. She wakes up and says, I thought you wouldn't have eaten outside, so I saved some food for you. Chi Shu asks, how was your date? Yue says, he told me to focus on Tsinghai University. Chi Shu says, that means his intentions are clear. If you want to be in a relationship with him, you'll have to meet him every day. Yue works hard for her college internship exams, and soon the exams are over. On the result day, she goes with her face covered. Lu Xiao says, you don't want to check your results because you're afraid of failing, right? Yue asks, how did you recognize me in these clothes? She admits, yes, because I'm afraid I won't get admission to Tsinghai University. That's why I did this. Lu Xiao tells her the results and leaves. Yue is very happy because she got good marks. In the next scene, they have to go on stage to give a speech. Yue asks Lu Xiao, are you nervous too? I have a solution for nervousness. But just then, their stage announcement is made. Lu Xiao takes her hand and leads her to the stage. Yue reads her speech, which Chi Shu wrote. Someone told me not to trust past rankings. Always believe in today's hard work. and for giving me so much courage. I want to thank Lu Xiao." After reading this, she angrily thinks to herself, "Chi Shu, you can't be my son." Then Lu Xiao also takes the mic and says a few lines, impressing everyone. As they leave the stage, Yue slips, but Lu Xiao catches her hand, making both of them feel very nervous. In the next scene, Chi Shu wakes Yue up from her sleep and says that today is her first day at college. Then she goes to brush her teeth, where he gives her a note that says, "I will pursue Lu Xiao." After that, when she goes for breakfast, Chi Shu gives her another note that says, "I guarantee that I will keep a distance from every senior." After reading this, she asks him, "So you want me to act like an innocent girl there, but I will not do that at all." To this, Chi Shu replies, "For that, you will have to pause over my dead body." Saying this, he forcefully takes her fingerprint on those notes. In the next scene, he is about to drop his mom at college and says, "When I was little, you used to take me to school on a bicycle." Now we see a scene from the future where it was Chi Shu's first day at school, and Yue was taking him on a bicycle. Chi Shu didn't want to go on the bicycle, so Yue says, "Then you only have one option, walk." Hearing this, he gets on the bicycle. Then they both start going to college on the bicycle, and he sees Lu Xiao coming from the front and says, "My bicycle chain has come off, can you drop her?" Then Lu Xiao agrees and gives Yue his shirt, saying, "You are wearing a skirt, so tie this around your waist." Then he sees Chi Shu leaving and is shocked because his bicycle chain was perfectly fine. Then Yue sits on the bicycle and Lu Xiao says, "The road is fine, so don't hold on so tightly." In the next scene, they reach college together where Yue asks, "Can we have lunch together today?" But Lu Xiao refuses. Then Yue says, "You are the one who brought me here on your bicycle, right?" To this, Lu Xiao replies, "Bringing you on my bicycle was a special situation, like sometimes one atom attaches to another atom." Then he says bye-bye and leaves. In the next scene, she goes to her dorm and starts introducing herself to her roommates when someone comes and says, "Lu Xiao is here to meet you." Hearing this, she goes down to meet Lu Xiao, but her clothes were smelling, so she went back to the dorm to change. Then a girl named Liang comes there, and Lu Xiao says to her, "I met your mom at the gate, and she asked me to give you this." Then Liang asks, "Can we have lunch together?" But Lu Xiao refuses and leaves. After that, Yue comes back after changing and sees that Lu Xiao is no longer there. In the next scene, she is talking with Chi Shu when some papers fall from her hand, and Zhao Yang comes to help her, but she refuses because Chi Shu was always watching her. Then she takes him to talk somewhere else, and Zhao Yang asks, "Are you afraid that someone will see us together?" Yue replies, "I promised someone that I would stay away from you." Then Zhao Yang says, "I came to meet you because today is my birthday, and I want to invite you to a mask party." Since everyone had to wear masks at that party, she agrees. In the next scene, Lu Xiao is also looking at the poster for the mask party when Liang comes and says, "If you want to go, you can. I have the last 2 tickets for this party, and you can meet seniors there." But Lu Xiao says, "I don't like going to such parties." Then Liang asks, "Will you come with me because it's not safe for me to go alone?" Lu Xiao says, "If it's not safe, then don't go." Saying this, he starts to leave, but then he gets an email from Yue saying, "I am at the mask party and in danger." Hearing this, Lu Xiao grabs a ticket from Liang and goes to the mask party. In the next scene, Yue sees Lu Xiao coming to the mask party and goes to him saying, "Don't you think you don't fit in at this party?" Lu Xiao replies, "Are you okay? You just emailed me saying you were in danger and I came to save you." Yue says, "If I were in danger, would I be able to send you an email?" Then she realizes that Chi Shu did all this. She sees Chi Shu sitting at the party and quickly takes Lu Xiao out of there. Outside, Lu Xiao tells her to go alone, but Yue says, "You were so worried about me just now." Lu Xiao says, "That was because we were high school classmates." In the next scene, they go to the canteen to eat because Yue was hungry, but the canteen was closed. So Yue tries to get in through the counter, but Lu Xiao goes in through the door. Seeing this, Yue feels embarrassed about her behavior. After that, they start making noodles for themselves, and Yue asks, "Don't you feel like having fun in this world?" But he doesn't answer. Then they start eating noodles, and Yue says, "Why is mine so cold? Yours is hot." Lu Xiao says, "Because one side of the water machine has hot water and the other side has cold." Then he exchanges his noodles with hers, even though he didn't want to eat them but was forced to. After that, when he goes to the dorm and sees his friends playing a game, he remembers Yue's words about having fun in the real world. Thinking this, he tells his friends, "I want to create an account for this game." Hearing this, his friends take him to play the game. In the next scene, Zhao Yang goes home and sees his mom picking up some broken things, and they were very poor. Then he tells his mom, "Mom, I got a scholarship, so let's eat out tonight. Get ready quickly." In the next scene, Yue's classmates see a ball in a shop with Zhao Yang's name on it. Then Yue comes and sees that it was the ball she gifted to Zhao Yang yesterday, and he sold it to the shop. Seeing this, she feels very bad. In the next scene, she sees Zhao Yang throwing a paper in the dustbin and then going to the teacher to submit a form. The teacher asks him, "Are you the only one who submitted the form from your class? What about your roommate?" Zhao Yang says, "He has some family problems, so he can't come." After that, when Zhao Yang returns, Yue gives him the paper he threw in the dustbin, and it was his roommate's form. The next day, Yue goes to Lu Xiao and says, "Let's go to class together." Then he sees that Yue is wearing a skirt and says, "It's so cold, but I'm feeling hot." Saying this, he gives her his shirt. In the next scene, Chi Shu arrives at the campus where Yue tells him that a girl committed suicide in this university, and now her ghost scares everyone. That's why no one dares to go out after 10 p.m. Hearing this, Chi Shu scares her. Then Chi Shu sees a poster for a physics lecture, and Yue says, "You're just like your dad. Both of you are always immersed in science. Now tell me, why haven't my efforts affected Lu Xiao? Is he an AI robot or something? Then make a program that makes him fall in true love with me, so that he charges himself to hold my hand." Chi Shu then grabs her and takes her away. In the next scene, we see Yue and Lu Xiao at a beach. Suddenly, Lu Xiao starts walking into the water. Yue shouts at him to stop, but he doesn't listen and keeps going. Yue then suddenly wakes up from her sleep. Hearing her voice, Chi Shu comes there, and Yue tells him about her bad dream and asks, "Can you tell me how we fell in love in the future? Did I propose to Lu Xiao or did he propose to me?" Chi Shu replies, "That happened before I was born, so I don't know, but I do know that a rival is soon coming into your life." The next day, Yue goes to college and tries to keep every girl away from Lu Xiao. When he comes out of the swimming pool, she puts a jacket on him so that no girl can see his body. In the next scene, Yue is keeping eyes on Lu Xiao with her friends. She sees two girls approach him asking for his WeChat, but he refuses. Seeing this, Yue feels that he will not give attention to anyone else. But then Liang comes to Lu Xiao, and Lu Xiao says to her, "It's been a long time since we met." He says this and walks away with her. Yue goes home and tells Chi Shu, "A rival has indeed come into my life. I thought I was Lu Xiao's school friend, but Liang is his childhood friend. She even stayed at his house when they were kids." But Chi Shu was busy watching a drama. Yue says, "Enemies are in front of me and you're watching TV?" Chi Shu replies, "I'm watching techniques to defeat the enemy. Now join hands with the enemy and then give them a heart attack." In the next scene, Chi Shu also attends the physics lecture he saw on the poster. The teacher asks for ideas on a theory, and only Chi Shu answers. After class, the teacher stops him and says, "Our lab needs 6 volunteers. Would you like to join?" Chi Shu agrees. On the other hand, Yue tries to befriend Liang and asks her out for coffee, but Liang declines. In the next scene, Liang goes for dinner with Lu Xiao, and Yue joins them at their table. In another scene, Liang heads to the physics lab, and Yue follows her. But the professor tells Yue, "This is not your subject. You can't enter the lab." So, she watches them from outside as Liang and Lu Xiao work together. Chi Shu then arrives and enters the lab. The professor introduces him as a volunteer and senior to everyone. Liang was asking Lu Xiao a question, but Chi Shu interrupts and gives the answer. Outside, Chi Shu tells Yue, "In these 2 hours, I stopped Liang from talking to Lu Xiao 12 times and from getting close to him 6 times. Yue says, "I'm convinced you're really my son." Chi Shu then says, "Tonight, the lab students invited me to a party. Will you come with me?" Yue agrees. In the next scene, they are partying with friends, playing the finger folding game. The first one to fold all 5 fingers gets a punishment. Lu Xiao says, "Fold a finger if you don't know the 3rd law of thermodynamics." Yue thinks he asked this on purpose. Then Yue says, "Fold a finger if you've never failed an exam." Lu Xiao folds his finger, but Chi Shu doesn't, and Yue looks at him. Chi Shu says, "I failed because my mom didn't teach me properly when I was a kid." Chi Shu then asks, "Fold a finger if you like someone here." Yue thinks her son always asks meaningful questions. Lu Xiao doesn't fold his finger. His friend asks, "Don't you like anyone here?" Lu Xiao replies, "Not yet." Yue folds all her fingers, so she has to reveal a secret. She says, "Chi Shu is my son." She knew no one would believe it. Then she gets a drinking punishment, but Lu Xiao drinks from her glass instead, making Yue happy and Liang jealous. The next day, Chi Shu calls Yue and says, "I confirmed that Lu Xiao has lab duty tonight, so he might be alone." Yue goes to the lab where Lu Xiao is sleeping. She looks at some papers and says, "Why can't I understand these? Is my head small?" She then approaches Lu Xiao and asks, "Is Lu Xiao's head different from mine?" Lu Xiao moves a bit, and they accidentally kiss, causing Yue to fall on him, making Lu Xiao very nervous, and Yue leaves. The next day, Lu Xiao is in class thinking, "Should I tell her it was just an accident? What if she misunderstood about me?" When Yue enters, Lu Xiao calls her, but she ignores him and sits elsewhere. In the next scene, Yue is heading to the lab on Chi Shu's suggestion, and Lu Xiao sees her. Suddenly, the lights go out, and strong winds blow. Yue thinks the ghost of the girl who committed suicide is there and rushes into the biology lab. Seeing a skeleton next to her, she screams. Lu Xiao arrives and says, "There's no ghost here." In the next scene, he is taking her to the dorm and says, "Your head is hurt, not your leg. Why am I carrying you?" Yue replies, "I'm too scared to walk. I'll wash your coat and return it to you." The next day, Yue goes to the lab to return Chi Shu's jacket. To leave them alone, Chi Shu starts to go to the washroom, but Lu Xiao says, "I need to go too." Then Chi Shu says, "I am going to eat." Lu Xiao says, "I have eaten." Then Chi Shu says, "I'm going to look in the mirror." Lu Xiao says, "You can see your reflection in this spoon." After that, Yue gives the jacket to Chi Shu. Then, Lu Xiao takes out the lipstick from the jacket and says, "Strawberry flavor lipstick, this must be yours." Then, Chi Shu quickly finds an excuse and leaves. In the next scene, Chi Shu asks Yue, "How did he know that your lipstick was strawberry flavor?" Yue says, "No girl uses spice flavor." Chi Shu says, "I mean, when you two were alone, did you kiss?" I think Lu Xiao must be nervous and his heart was beating fast. That is why you should stay by his side. Then, Chi Shu goes to play basketball. In the next scene, Yue has dinner with her roommates, and one of her friends asks her to invite Lu Xiao for breakfast. Yue messages Lu Xiao, but he refuses. Then she invites him for lunch, but he refuses again. One of her friends says, "Did you do anything with Lu Xiao? It seems like he is deliberately avoiding you." Hearing this, Yue remembers the kiss scene. After that, her other friend says, "You should follow him tomorrow and check if he is really busy." The next day, Lu Xiao is talking to his grandma when Liang arrives, and he asks her to talk to his grandma. Seeing this, Yue feels bad. Then Zhaoyang comes and invites her for breakfast in the canteen. In the next scene, they have breakfast, but Yue is still paying attention to Lu Xiao, who is having breakfast with Liang. Then Liang says, "Look, I brought back your gift." Then one of Zhaoyang's friends comes and says, "Sorry, I was short of money, so I sold your things." Zhaoyang gives him money in return for those things, and the boy leaves. Liang shows Lu Xiao a magic trick with a coin, seeing which Lu Xiao also shows the same trick, which makes Yue furious, and she leaves. Then Lu Xiao says to Liang, "That guy who is following you will not come again. He can't do anything to you even in broad daylight. I have to go to class." Then he leaves. In the next scene, Lu Xiao's professor is explaining something to him, but he is not paying attention. The professor says, "Where are you lost these days? Let's take a 5-minute break." Then he receives a message from Chi Shu. The message says, "Yue's phone is dead. She asked me to ask you for dinner at 6 p.m. Seeing this, Lu Xiao is very happy and says yes. Then, the professor comes back and Lu Xiao asks him a question. The professor says, "Who sent you a message that turned on your brain?" After that, Yue goes for dinner and waits for Lu Xiao. On the other hand, Lu Xiao went to meet Liang and says, "Are you all right? Did that man do anything to you?" Liang says, "I chased that man away." Hearing this, Lu Xiao starts to leave, but Liang stops him and invites him for candlelight dinner. Lu Xiao says, "I have to go somewhere. Tell Auntie that you are all right." Then he leaves. In the next scene, we see Yue, who is waiting for Lu Xiao, but he does not come even after waiting for a long time. In the next scene, Lu Xiao goes to his dorm after drinking. One of his friends asks him, "How much have you drunk?" Lu Xiao says, "1 bottle." Then his friend says, "Why didn't you reply to my message?" Lu Xiao starts crying and says, "Give me back my first kiss." Then, he is about to kiss that boy, but then he says, "This is not strawberry flavor." While saying this, he falls down. The next day, he tells his friends, "I need to go somewhere tonight. Can you cover my night shift?" His friend asks, "Are you going on a date with a girl?" Lu Xiao replies, "No, I'm going to Chi Shu's birthday party." In the next scene, he goes to Chi Shu's house with a gift. When Yue opens the door and sees him, she shouts, "Why are you here? Go back." She shuts the door. We are then shown a scene from 12 hours earlier. Yue asks Chi Shu, "Tell me what you want as a birthday gift." Chi Shu says, "I want a proper gift." Yue responds, "Have you never received a proper gift?" Chi Shu recalls a scene where Yue gave him an electric bracelet saying, "If anyone whose fingerprints are not installed touches you, they will get a shock." She puts it on him but hadn't installed her own fingerprints, so she gets shocked herself. Remembering this, Chi Shu says, "You always gave me weird gifts." In the next scene, Lu Xiao is in class waiting for Yue. One of Yue's friends tells him, "Are you looking for Yue? She has a stomachache and is in her room." Lu Xiao replies, "I wasn't asking about her." The teacher calls Lu Xiao's name, but he is distracted. The teacher asks him to take attendance. Yue isn't in class, but he marks her present. After class, a boy approaches Lu Xiao asking, "Are you interested in gossip?" Lu Xiao says, "Absolutely not." The boy continues, "It might be gossip for others, but it's useful news for you. I saw a handsome guy waiting outside Yue's dorm today." Hearing this, Lu Xiao quickly leaves. In the next scene, he waits outside her dorm. When Yue arrives, he gives her stomachache medicine and suggests seeing a doctor. Yue says, "My stomachache isn't due to that. I'm having girl problems." Hearing this, Lu Xiao feels a bit nervous and says, "Don't be absent again or your marks will be deducted." Yue replies, "But you were absent last night." Lu Xiao says, "I had some work so I couldn't come." Yue then invites him to dinner at her place for Chi Shu's birthday, and he agrees. In the next scene, Zhao Yang confesses his love to Yue. She thanks him but says she likes someone else. Zhao Yang asks, "You mean Lu Xiao?" Yue replies, "Yes, you're a good guy, but from now on it's better to stay friends." She leaves. In the next scene, Chi Shu sees a list of medicines with Lu Xiao and thinks he's sick. Chi Shu says, "I'll tell the professor to give you leave." Lu Xiao responds, "It's not for me, it's for a friend who has a stomachache. As the class monitor, I care about her." Hearing this, Chi Shu leaves and asks Yue's roommates about her. They say she might be at the auditorium. Chi Shu heads there and overhears someone saying a boy proposed to a girl there. He asks a cleaner, "Did someone propose to a girl here?" The cleaner confirms, "Yes," and the girl accepted. Chi Shu thinks Zhao Yang proposed to Yue and goes to Zhao Yang, kicking him and angrily saying, "I warned you to stay away from Yue." They start fighting, and some people come to stop them. In the next scene, Yue returns home to find Chi Shu injured. Chi Shu angrily asks, "Where were you? Did Zhao Yang propose to you?" Yue says, "Yes, he did." Chi Shu throws the gift she brought and says, "I told you to stay away from him." Yue, confused, and says, "I just got here, and you're already yelling. I've tried to chasing after Lu Xiao. I've become a joke in college. Do I have any self-respect? From now on, I won't pursue Lu Xiao." Chi Shu says, "I knew you would do this because you're a loser. If I had a choice, I'd never choose you as my mom." Yue starts crying and says, "If I had a choice, I wouldn't choose you as my son, but you live in my house and eat my food." Hearing this, Chi Shu feels bad and leaves home. Lu Xiao arrives for Chi Shu's birthday party, but Yue angrily shuts the door on him. In the next scene, Chi Shu stands outside Shuling's house and video calls her, asking, "Can I stay at your place tonight?" Shuling gets a message from Yue saying she's coming over. Chi Shu tells Shuling not to tell Yue he's there and hides inside. Yue arrives and tells Shuling about her problem, saying Zhao Yang proposed her but she rejected him. She also says she brought a birthday gift for Chi Shu, but Chi Shu threw it away in anger. Chi Shu overhears this. Yue goes to the bathroom to wash her face and Chi Shu accidentally turns on the shower, getting wet. Yue almost lifts the curtain, but Shuling stops her, saying, "The shower turns on by remote. See, I can turn it off too." As she says this, Chi Shu turns it off. Shuling sends Yue home. In the next scene, Chi Shu is drying himself. Shuling applies medicine to his wounds, which hurts a bit, so she gives him a toy. He remembers a future scene where he asks, "Aunt Shuling, do you think Mom left me?" Shuling replies, "Your mom is busy these days. Stay with me for a few days. I'll play with you," and gives him a toy. The next morning, Yue wakes up missing Chi Shu. She receives a message from Lu Xiao but doesn't reply. Seeing this, Lu Xiao asks his friends, "What usually makes girls angry?" His friend says, "Girls are complicated. Only they knows why they're angry. Why don't you ask her?" Lu Xiao says, "I asked, but she didn't reply." In the next scene, Yue goes to class where Lu Xiao is waiting for her, but she doesn't look at him. Her friend suggests sitting next to Lu Xiao, but Yue says, "It's too crowded there." After class, Lu Xiao stops Yue, saying, "This is my experiment report. Give it to Chi Shu." Yue angrily replies, "Why don't you give it to him yourself? I'm not a delivery person." She leaves. Back at his dorm, Lu Xiao's friend asks, "What happened? Did Yue ignore you today? Tell me, do you like her?" Lu Xiao says, "No." His friend then says, "If you don't like her, let me meet her. If I had such a lovely girlfriend, I'd take great care of her." Lu Xiao, feeling jealous, says, "Shut up and focus on your studies." Later, when he goes to the library, Yue says to him, "What a coincidence, we both met here." But this was just his imagination. After that, wherever he went, he kept imagining seeing Yue. Then Liang comes to him and says, "A guy from another university is bothering me." Lu Xiao replies, "You should handle him yourself. You're an adult now. You need to learn to say no to others." Just then, seeing Yue's friend, he asks, "What happened to Yue?" She says, "Chi Shu is missing. That's why Yue is calling the police." He then goes to Yue and says, "Let's find him together." In the next scene, they both goes out to find Chi Shu. While putting up posters, some ladies start following them, so Lu Xiao takes her and runs, hiding in a small place where they end up very close to each other. After the ladies leave, Yue tries to get out, but there isn't enough space. Lu Xiao says, maybe we should go out together. They both get out and feel very nervous. Then Lu Xiao feels hungry, so they go to an ice cream shop. Lu Xiao, handing her ice cream, says, here's your favorite strawberry flavor. Yue asks, how do you know I like strawberry flavor? Lu Xiao replies, because of your lipstick. As soon as he says this, he remembers that kissing scene and feels very nervous. Then they start serving ice cream to all the customers because the owner had gone to the washroom. On the other hand, Chi Shu finds a lot of snacks at Shuling's house. Her entire house is filled with snacks. Then he takes all the snacks outside where he meets an auntie. The auntie says to him, are you Shuling's boyfriend? Chi Shu, smiling, says, Shuling always tells me that you take great care of her, so I brought snacks for you. The auntie says, oh, that wasn't necessary. Saying this, she takes the snacks from his hands and leaves. On the other side, Lu Xiao also brings food for Yue and says to her, he's an adult, so he knows how to take care of himself. Yue replies, he doesn't know how to take care of himself. He is unfamiliar with this place, and who knows where he might be right now. In the next scene, Shuling is going home from the office where her two colleagues say, my boyfriend is coming to pick me up. Do you need a ride? But just then, Chi Shu arrives with a car to pick her up. Her colleagues say, Shuling, you have a boyfriend too, and you kept it a secret from us. After that, Shuling says goodbye to them and leaves with Chi Shu. While they are returning home, they meet the same auntie who says to Shuling, your boyfriend is nice. Shuling says, he's not my boyfriend. The auntie then says, he gave me a lot of snacks in the afternoon. Don't hide it from me. Saying this, she leaves. Then they meet another uncle who also thinks Chi Shu is her boyfriend and thanks him for the snacks. Shuling says, how strange. Why does everyone seem so happy today? Chi Shu says, because I gave them all your snacks. Hearing this, Shuling gets angry at him. Chi Shu says, junk food is not good for your health, and I will cook for you. Then Chi Shu finds his lost mobile phone. He sees many messages from Yue and decides to go back home. Just then, Yue calls Shuling. After the call ends, Shuling tells Chi Shu, Yue and Lu Xiao are looking for you together. Hearing this, Chi Shu says, that means they are spending time together, which means the real game has just started. Then he writes everyone's names on a board, explaining who likes whom. Shuling says, why is my name on this? Chi Shu says, because you are also helping to bring them together. Then Shuling asks, why do you want to bring Yue and Lu Xiao together? Chi Shu says, because according to my prediction, Yue is his destiny. Shuling says, so can you tell me when I will meet my dream prince? Chi Shu replies, when the flowers bloom, their fragrance spreads all around. Saying this, he leaves. After he leaves, Shuling connects her name with Chi Shuo's name and draws a heart in between. In the next scene, Chi Shuo does a live stream where he says he is at a resort out of the city. They both go to that resort to bring him back. Moving ahead, Lu Xiao stops the car at a place and says to Yue, if you need to use the washroom, go ahead. But Yue was sleeping with a blanket, so he doesn't wake her and goes to the washroom himself. After he leaves, Yue wakes up and goes to the washroom. When Lu Xiao returns and sees the blanket, he thinks Yue is still sleeping, so he leaves. After this, Shuling calls Yue's phone. Lu Xiao answers the call. He tries to wake Yue, but she doesn't respond. On the other side, they also find out that Yue is missing, so Chi Shu leaves quickly to find her. After coming out of the washroom, Yue accidentally gets into someone else's car and falls asleep. The driver, seeing this, angrily says, who are you? Yue says, are you kidnapping me? I will call the police. But she can't find her phone. She then runs out of the car. She sits there waiting for Lu Xiao. Just then, Lu Xiao returns to pick her up, but Yue can't walk, so he carries her in his arms. On the other side, they also find out that Yue is found, so they go back home. In the next scene, they are booking 2 rooms for themselves. The receptionist tells them, our one guest has booked all the rooms, and only 1 room is left. Hearing this, Yue understands that Chi Shu must have done this. She thinks to herself, you will play such a cheap game with me. I will find you today. When they enter the room, Yue sees that it is a couple's room with flowers on the bed. She quickly hides them. Lu Xiao then asks her, don't you want to take a bath? Yue says, you go first. I will rest for a while. After that, Yue starts looking for Chi Shu, thinking he must be hiding somewhere nearby. Just then, the doorbell rings. A waiter brings food that Lu Xiao ordered. Yue sees that it's not food, but a hot dress. She angrily throws it at Lu Xiao. On the other side, Chi Shu is eating noodles and stops Shuling from eating. They fight over the noodles for quickly finish them. Suddenly, the same noodle comes into both of their mouths, bringing them very close, making them feel nervous. Chi Shu then leaves. In the next scene, Yue wakes up and goes to the sofa to see Lu Xiao. Suddenly, Lu Xiao wakes up startled and his neck is stiff. Yue starts massaging his neck and suddenly gives it a jerk, which causes him a lot of pain, but his neck gets better. Yue then says, I have decided we won't look for him because he is doing this on purpose. For now, let's enjoy what we have in front of us. Saying this, she looks at Lu Xiao and he smiles back at her. In the next scene, when they go outside, a girl comes and invites them to a couple's game. Yue realizes that this is also Chi Shu's plan. Lu Xiao refuses, but Yue takes him to play the game. Now we find out that the girl is none other than Shu Ling. They all start playing the game, where Lu Xiao has to catch Yue, and the ones organizing the game are Shu Ling and Chi Shu. Yue goes to them and says, you both are working hard, so you should also play this game. Saying this, she takes them along. Then, instead of falling on him, Yue jumps on him and says, I don't like playing games according to people's rules. On the other side, Chi Shu falls while catching Shu Ling. Yue goes to him and says, you had a lot of fun, now go back home, my dear son. Hearing this, Chi Shu quickly runs away. In the next scene, Shu Ling tells him, I have to go to the hospital to see a patient. Chi Shu says, okay, I will wait for you at dinner. Then Shu Ling leaves, and Chi Shu looks at her, thinking to himself, what are you thinking? She's your mom's friend. In the next scene, Yue comes to Shu Ling's house, and Chi Shu hides quickly upon hearing her voice. Yue starts playing with their puppy. Seeing the opportunity, he hides in the bathroom. Then Yue also goes to the bathroom and picks up a face mask. Just then, Shu Ling arrives and says, why are you holding the mask? Give it back. Yue asks, why did you come back running? Are you hiding someone in the house? Shu Ling says, no. And what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be looking for Chi Shu? Yue replies, if he's gone, it means I don't need to search for him, and only a fool would believe Chi Shu. Lately, I feel like someone is following me, but it must be Chi Shu. Then Shu Ling sends her home. After she leaves, Chi Shu comes out of the bathroom, and Shu Ling tells him that Yue felt like someone was following her. Was it you? Chi Shu says, it must be Zhao Yang. Saying this, he quickly leaves. When Yue is going back, a man with a mask follows her, and Chi Shu is also following them. Chi Shu picks up a stone to hit him, but sees that both of them have disappeared. Then Yue appears in front of him, and the masked guy was Lu Xiao. Yue says to him, what a coincidence! You can't hide now. In the next scene, Yue is sleeping. Chi Shu comes to give her water. Yue says, I had that dream again. I saw a boy walking towards the sea, and do you know who that boy was? It was you. I get scared thinking, what if you actually leaves? Chi Shu says, don't worry, Mom. There's a difference between dreams and reality. Yue says, I won't be scared anymore because I have my son. Hearing this, Chi Shu says, what if I really leave in the future? But Yue had already fallen asleep. Then he sits alone, thinking about Yue, and writes something in a diary. On the other hand, when Shu Ling comes home, she feels the house is empty without Chi Shu, but she finds notes written by Chi Shu everywhere. The next day, Yue is in the dorm when her roommate comes and tells her, I have a news. Lu Xiao has applied for the drama club. Hearing this, Yue says, he's from the physics department, so why did he apply for the drama club? Then Yue quickly goes to the drama club. Their director says to Lu Xiao, you don't look like someone who is interested in acting. Why did you apply for the drama club? Lu Xiao says, a girl told me that learning something new brings a lot of joy. Then the director asks him to act, requiring a girl too. Yue goes to him. They start acting Romeo and Juliet. Zhao Yang also comes to audition for the drama club, but the director says, you're too late now. Zhao Yang goes to Yue and says, next week I have a basketball match with the physics department. Will you come to cheer me? He says to Lu Xiao, you probably don't know how to play basketball, so you should come with Yue to cheer me up. Lu Xiao says, okay, we'll meet at the basketball ground. Outside, Yue asks, are you really going to cheer him up? Lu Xiao leaves, saying no. In the next scene, Lu Xiao goes to the ground where his friends are practicing for the match. He starts playing basketball, and his friends are shocked to see him play for the first time. On the other side, Shu Ling Sr. scolds her for writing Chi Shu's name instead of the patient's name. Then, Chi Shu comes with fruits for her and asks, why is your face so red? You have a fever. Let's go home and rest. Saying this, he takes her away. The next day, their basketball match is happening. Yue comes to cheer up Lu Xiao, shouting his name loudly with her friends. The match starts, and Zhao Yang deliberately knocks Lu Xiao down, saying, Ye will definitely be my girlfriend. Lu Xiao says, if you're so sure, go tell her. Then Zhao Yang's team wins by 1 point. In the next scene, Yue is bandaging Lu Xiao's injury and asks, why did you participate? You don't even like basketball. Lu Xiao says, because I don't like arrogant people. He sees that Wei has bandaged him excessively for a small injury and then brings a wheelchair for him. In the next scene, they are rehearsing in the drama club. Just then, Liang comes and says the school union has decided that we don't need some clubs and they are disbanding the drama club. If you have any issues, you can talk to them. After she leaves, the director says there's no need to rehearse anymore. But Yue says no, we will continue. Now, will we listen to her? In the next scene, Yue tells her roommates that the drama club is going to be closed, and she's sure Liang is behind it. So she has decided that the club will not be closed. She needs 10,000 fingerprints on a paper. Her friend says there aren't that many students in the entire college. Yue says, not the entire college, just you guys need to collect them. 3,000 fingerprints each. Her friend refuses, but she convinces them by offering some series as a gift. In the next scene, Chi Shu calls Yue and asks why the drama club was suddenly closed. How will she stay close to Lu Xiao? Yue says she doesn't know. Then Chi Shu says, by the way, Lu Xiao told me he would meet you in the rehearsal hall in 10 minutes. Then he goes to Lu Xiao, who was reading Romeo and Juliet. Chi Shu says, the drama club is closed, so why are you working so hard? Lu Xiao says the club might be closed, but we will still rehearse. Then Chi Shu says, by the way, Yue told me she would meet you in the rehearsal hall in 10 minutes. After that, he also goes to meet her. There, he sees Yue acting alone. Lu Xiao smiles while recording her video. Seeing this, Yue feels very embarrassed. Then Lu Xiao joins her for the rehearsal. Just then, their classmates arrive and laugh at them, then inform them that the director has refused to come. Yu says, if we don't have a club, it's okay. We can rehearse anywhere in the college, and I will find a director. The next day, they are rehearsing on the ground. Chi Shu had told Yue to kiss Lu Xiao, so she kept trying to kiss him, but there was no such scene in the drama. The director gets angry and asks what is happening. Then he tells them to take a break for a while. In the next scene, they go to the canteen together. A girl kisses her boyfriend there. Seeing this, Yue says to herself, is kissing that easy? While returning, she tells Lu Xiao, there's something in my eye. Can you blow on it? Just then, her roommate comes and asks if she has finished her homework as they need to submit it in an hour. Saying this, she takes her away. Then Liang comes to Lu Xiao and says a man is following her again. I'm very scared. Lu Xiao says if someone is following you, you should report it to the college or the police. Saying this, he leaves. Chi Shu also sees all this. In the next scene, Lu Xiao tries to message Yue, but he feels nervous. Just then, he gets a message from Yue. Then, Liang comes and hugs him, saying someone is following her again. Lu Xiao says, I have seen no one following you, so please don't do this again. Just then, she sees Yue coming and says to him, I like you, and kisses him. Seeing this, Yue leaves, but Liang was just removing hair from his shoulder. In the next scene, Yue is sitting with Chi Shu, drinking and telling him that Lu Xiao kissed Liang in front of everyone today. What is all this? It would be better if I go blind. Then Chi Shu lifts her to take her away, and Yue vomits on him. The next day, Lu Xiao asks Yue why she didn't reply to his messages, but she ignores him and leaves, with her friends also glaring at him. Whenever he goes to Yue, her friends tell him to stay away. Then he goes to Chi Shu and asks about Yue. Chi Shu says he doesn't know. Then Lu Xiao says he wanted to ask about a physics law. Chi Shu says, I'm illiterate. Then Lu Xiao angrily asks, can you tell why she is angry? Chi Shu then shows him a picture of him with Liang. Seeing this, Lu Xiao quickly runs away. In the next scene, Yue is taking her class and Lu Xiao also comes and sits in her class. Yue wasn't paying attention in class, so the teacher asks her to stand up and asks her a theory question. Just then, Lu Xiao sends her a message with the answer. Then the teacher tells her to sit down. After that, Lu Xiao gives a paper to a boy and asks him to deliver it to Yue. Yue opens the paper, which reads, you have a misunderstanding. I want to tell you something. After class, he starts telling her, what you saw is not true. You know I never lie and I will never lie to you. Yue replies, okay, what do you want to tell me? Lu Xiao explains, I promised Liang's mom that I would take care of her in college. She said that a guy was following her. Yue asks, did your aunt ask you to kiss her? Lu Xiao says, we didn't kiss. She said there was hair on my shirt. She was just removing it. Then he goes near her and says, you're blushing. Yue denies it. Just then, Liang comes there and says, thanks for that night. Lu Xiao replies, if someone follows you again, tell the police because I have someone important to protect. But Yue avoids him and leaves. Then Lu Xiao says, it's your birthday today and I got you a gift. But Yue avoids him again and leaves. In the next scene, Yue is boxing with Chi Shu in anger and says, do you think he's really stupid? He doesn't even know that Liang likes him, but he said he has to protect someone, and he said that while looking at me. Hearing this, Chi Shu says, You both like each other and Liang is in between. You should clear things up with Lu Xiao at the birthday party today. Yu replies, no, I'm not inviting him to the party today. From today onwards, anyone who takes his side will be beaten by me. Now it's your turn. With that, she hits him and knocks him down. In the next scene, when Lu Xiao comes out of his dorm, he sees Chi Shu and says, why have you made yourself look like this? Chi Shu replies, Yue is in anger. She has spies everywhere. I have to protect myself. Anyway, stay in touch tonight. Just then, he gets a call from Yue who is calling him, so Chi Shu quickly leaves from there. In the next scene, Yue is celebrating her birthday with all her friends. Then a girl says, the only person missing here is Lu Xiao. Just then, her roommate spills coffee on her and takes her outside and says, you can't talk about Lu Xiao here, especially not today. Just then, she sees Lu Xiao behind her and says, what are you doing here? Yue is mad at you. Lu Xiao replies, yes, that's why I'm waiting for her outside. Inside, Yue has had a lot of drinks and she goes to the washroom. When she sees Lu Xiao outside, she goes to him and falls on him saying, you look exactly like Lu Xiao. Hearing this, Lu Xiao starts smiling. After that, he is taking her back. Then one of her roommates tells her that the dorm must have closed by now. Then Lu Xiao takes her to a hotel, and Yue is vomiting, so she goes to the bathroom. Then Lu Xiao goes inside and says, why are you sitting here like this? Yue replies, I'm not vomiting. Then Lu Xiao is taking her outside. Then Yue asks, can you tell me what our relationship is? Lu Xiao replies, our relationship is whatever you think it is. With that, he starts kissing her. Then the lights turns on and they both look at each other and smile. The next day, Chi Shu goes to the hospital because his leg is injured. On the other hand, Yue also came to the same hospital to get medicine. Chi Shu asks her, how was last night? Did something happen between you two? Yue tells him, he said he loves me and can't live without me. He also asked me what our relationship is and he's very clingy. But then Chi Shu plays a recording of Lu Xiao. He is saying, last night Yue had too much to drink and she wanted to make me her brother. She said we would swear on blood but didn't know what to write, so nothing happened. Then Chi Shu tells her, looks like your supposed brother is coming here soon, so I'm leaving you two alone. Then Lu Xiao comes there and asks Yue, why is your face so downcast? Then he goes near her and asks, do you have a cold? I'll take you home. In the next scene, Yue is at home and Lu Xiao brings her soup. Then he gives her her birthday gift. Yue asks, is there a diamond ring in it? He says, no. When she opens it, it has a piece of carbon in it. Yue says, you're giving me a piece of carbon as a gift? Lu Xiao replies, your birthday is on the 6th and that's the rank of carbon in the periodic table. At high temperature and pressure, even carbon becomes a diamond. Anyway, I've given my answer. Now I'm waiting for your answer. Yue says, you're so smart. What answer do you want? Lu Xiao doesn't reply and leaves for class. After that, she goes to Chi Shu and says, Lu Xiao was asking me for an answer, but I don't know what he wanted. Chi Shu replies, he must be asking for an answer about your relationship. I think you should take the first step. The next day, Yue asks Lu Xiao, do you think a guy will confess his love at the aquarium? Lu Xiao says, it's totally stupid to confess here. But then a guy is confessing his love there. Lu Xiao says, see, he looks like a fool, right? Then Yue asks him, do you think animals also have partners? By the way, the male should confess first. Lu Xiao says, there are many animals that are unfaithful. They don't confess their love, they just live together. Hearing this, Yue says, you're not romantic at all. Now we see Liang and Zhao Yang in the same bar. Zhao Yang tells her, I have an interesting idea, but need your help. Liang says, I suggest you improve yourself. On the other hand, Lu Xiao takes off his shirt and ties it around Yue's waist because she's wearing a skirt, but Yue takes the shirt off and gives it back to him and says, order something, I'll be back from the washroom. Just then, Zhao Yang sees her going and he follows her. When Yue comes out of the washroom, he asks her, have I ever done anything wrong to you? Yue says, leave me alone or I'll scream. Zhao Yang says, yes, yes, scream. Everyone knows me well. Just then, Lu Xiao comes there and hits him and tells him angrily, I'm warning you, stay away from my girlfriend from today onwards. Then he takes Yue away. The next day, Yue is in her dorm. She tells her roommates, our drama will have its first performance this evening at 7:00 p.m. You should get tickets and come on time. However, they all have exams coming up, so they start studying and decline to attend her performance. In the next scene, their play is taking place, but only her friends have come to watch. Lu Xiao remarks, an audience is necessary for a performance, but does it matter if the audience is sitting in front of us? Yue understands and suggests, if we film it and upload it to social media, we'll get a lot of views. They perform the play while their friends film, but Lu Xiao accidentally calls Yue's name instead of Juliet's. The next day, they go out together, and Lu Xiao thinks to himself, Yue is very timid. I'll take her to a haunted house, and when she gets scared and clings to me, I'll confess my love. They go to the haunted house, and a girl dressed as a ghost tries to scare them, but Yue is not afraid and takes her mask. When she puts the mask on and turns around, both Lu Xiao and the girl get scared. Yue tells the girl, you should practice scaring people. Go practice. In the next scene, Lu Xiao is talking to a movie theater employee. He says, I plan to have our video suddenly play instead of the movie. They go to watch a movie, and Yue sees a boy kissing his girlfriend. She tells Lu Xiao, I don't like such nonsense, boys. There's no need to act so ridiculously in such a place. Hearing this, Lu Xiao cancels his plan. In the next scene, Yue is in her dorm. Her roommate has brought a mouse and tells her, humans only have one purpose, to reproduce. Even this mouse has found a girlfriend. Yue replies, animals need partners too. Her roommate disagrees, saying, humans just pretend it's love, but their real purpose is to reproduce. Yue asks, is my attraction to Lu Xiao because I want a child? Her friend says, I don't know what's in your mind, but I can bet that boys only have one thing in mind. Yue insists, Lu Xiao is not like that. Meanwhile, Chi Shu is advising Lu Xiao on how to propose to Yue. He offers his own method and leaves. Lu Xiao then messages Yue, come to the balcony. Yue goes outside, where it is snowing. He tells her, look, do it with me. Yue remembers her friend's words and angrily calls him rude before leaving. Lu Xiao's plan has now failed. In a flashback, we see that he had written, I love you in the snow, but a couple comes along and the girl pushes her boyfriend away. Now Lu Xiao asks, what to do? Chi Shu tells him, just go to bed after eating. Their winter vacation begins and Chi Shu goes to wake Yue up. As he lifts the blanket, a fake snake falls on him. He goes outside where Yue is watching TV. He goes in front of the TV and starts dancing, asking her, do you remember today's mission? Yue replies, I don't have time for Lu Xiao. He goes to turn off the TV but gets electrocuted. In the next scene, they are having breakfast but Yue is playing a game instead of eating. Chi Shu tells her off, but she ignores him. Chi Shu pretends that someone is at the door and goes to answer it saying, Lu Xiao, what are you doing here? Yue quickly runs to her room and comes out dressed up with a book. She sees that Lu Xiao is not there and shouts, why hasn't he come to see me yet? Chi Shu starts laughing out loud. Later that night, they go out to throw away the trash. Chi Shu asks, will you run back to the house to get ready if Lu Xiao shows up? Yue asks, do I look ugly? If he likes me, he should like me even if I look like this. It's been 3 days and he hasn't even tried to see me. They look for a dustbin and Chi Shu leaves her there and runs away. She looks for him but can't find him, so she puts the trash down and starts to go back. However, their Romeo and Juliet video starts playing on a screen. Yue stops to watch it, and it starts snowing. Lu Xiao appears and shows her a board that says, this pi is you and this sigma is me. People say that these two cannot bond, but I believe in new inventions. Yue doesn't understand what he's talking about. Lu Xiao asks, will you be my girlfriend? And she says yes. He kisses her. Meanwhile, Chi Shu goes home and strains his back. He tries to apply a bandage, and Yue comes in. Chi Shu asks, what are you doing here? You should be out with Lu Xiao. Yue says, we're the most boring couple. Chi Shu asks, what do you mean by that? In a flashback, they are in a restaurant together. Yue sees a girl feeding her boyfriend and then kissing him. Yue starts feeding Lu Xiao, but he says, I'm allergic to mangoes. She tries to feed him a different ice cream, hoping he will kiss her, but he just eats it. Yue realizes that things are not going as she had imagined. Lu Xiao asks, what to do next? And Yue looks at the couple and says, follow them. In the next scene, they go to a pottery shop, where the couple from the restaurant is also present. Yue tries to make pottery while holding Lu Xiao's hands, but it turns out badly, and they get mud on their faces. The shop owner scolds them. Chi Shu finds this very funny. He sits down and starts writing a diary for his mother. In the next scene, Lu Xiao was hiding his phone behind a book and was chatting with Yue. Then his dad comes there and tells him that research is not so easy. After a couple of years, you need to focus on your study very well. No matter what happens, don't deviate from your goal. Lu Xiao was saying something when he heard Yue's voice from outside. He then goes to the balcony and asks, Yue, what are you doing here right now? Yue says while laughing, tell me, when will our baby be born? Then, her dad comes there and asks her, what are you doing here at this time? Yue tells him, I was saying that your son is very intelligent, and she then runs from there. After that, Lu Xiao's dad glares at him. The next day, both of them are walking together. Then Lu Xiao asks her, what were you doing when you came in front of my house last night? Yue tells him, did you think about that? We should have a baby soon. Lu Xiao says, we are not done with our studies yet. Then Yue tells him, I don't care about that. You don't have to see how our child will look in the future. Let me show you. In the next scene, Lu Xiao is sitting with his dad and studying. Then he receives a message from Yue and quickly hides his phone. His dad was watching animal reproduction on TV at that time, and Lu Xiao became nervous and went inside his room. He starts exercising instead of studying because he had seen this on TV just now and wants his genes to be strong. Then his dad calls from outside, Lu Xiao, are you okay? Lu Xiao replies, yes, Dad, I am studying. After that, he replies to Yue's message and says, Yue, I am ready for that. In the next scene, Yue is matching a picture to Chi Shu's face and tells him, I matched my and Lu Xiao's photos to create a picture of our future baby, but it doesn't look like you at all. Chi Shu says, can you believe in your apps? In the next scene, Lu Xiao was looking at his body. He was on a date with Yue, and at that time Chi Shu also arrived there. Lu Xiao saw him and asked, why are you here on our date? Yue replied, we decided that we will practice keeping our son with us. Lu Xiao asks, when did you decide that? Yue says, just now. I said, right? Lu Xiao asks, so you see him as your son. In the next scene, Yue was making both of them play ghost game together. She tells a scary story, but she herself gets scared the most. In the next scene, she puts them both to sleep on the side of her bed and says, you both can't sleep before me. Seems like I will not be able to sleep whole night. After a while, Yue fell asleep. Lu Xiao asks Chi Shu, I have something to ask you. Are you really Yue's cousin? Chi Shu says, what do you think? Lu Xiao says, I don't understand. How can cousins be so close that they can't live without each other? Chi Shu then says, Lu Xiao, will you marry Yue? Lu Xiao replies, love is found very luckily, and I will never reject it. Then both of them go to sleep. After winter vacation, both of them go to college again. Then, Zhao Yang asks Yue to swipe her card. Then Yue tells him, you can't enter with one card. Zhao Yang then sees both of them going together. After that, Yue was indirectly teasing all the single people. Lu Xiao tells her, if you continue doing this, you will have lots of enemies. Then, Yue's friend takes her to the dorm. In the next scene, Shu Ling was writing Chi Shu's name in her diary. Then, Chi Shu comes there with a mask on his face, and Shu Ling asks, who are you? Chi Shu replies, I have to meet the doctor. He then shows her his face. After that, Shu Ling brings him allergy medicine and tells him, do you have time for lunch with me? Chi Shu says, no, I have to go to the lab today. I heard you like someone. Who is it? Shu Ling replies, no, I can't tell you. On the other hand, Yue was telling all her roommates, I have become genius in love matters. So, I will give you all a lecture on love. Then all her friends agree. In the next scene, Chi Shu goes to the lab after taking his medicines and tells Lu Xiao that he has allergy. Lu Xiao says, you are going to be blamed for spoiling someone's date. Then Chi Shu sees that there is a diary with his medicines, and in that diary, his name was written many times. Lu Xiao tells him, maybe someone likes you. Chi Shu says, you also became a love teacher these days. Then Lu Xiao says, it's childish to write someone's name in a diary, but I also did it. On hearing this, Chi Shu says, you did it? Lu Xiao blushed and said yes. Then Lu Xiao realized that this would be Shu Ling's handwriting. He thought, she is like my Mathet in the relationship. I need to stop her. Thinking this, he left from there. In the next scene, Yue was telling her love story to Shu Ling. Suddenly, Shu Ling starts crying and tells her, my breakup happened. I told him I love you, but before that, he rejected me. I messaged him that I wanted to tell him something, but he hasn't replied yet. On hearing this, Yue angrily says, tell me his name, I won't spare him. Shu Ling replies, then I can't tell you anything because I don't want your relationship to be bad because of me. Yue cries and says, Shu Ling, I didn't expect this from you both. You and Lu Xiao are cheating on me together. Shu Ling says, I'm not talking about Lu Xiao. Yue says, yeah, okay. Then Shu Ling tells her Chi Shu's name. Yue yells, that can't be true. She starts shouting loudly and then goes home to confront Chi Shu. She asks him, tell me, what gestures did you do with Shu Ling? Chi Shu says, she is my future godmother. Why would I gesture her? Maybe she misunderstood my care as something else. Yue says, yeah, he didn't receive love from his childhood, so seeing your care might have made her fall for you. Anyway, you can't refuse her directly, so you start ignoring her. Do the opposite of what she likes. Chi Shu says, what kind of absurd things are you saying? Did the writer of this episode change? In the next scene, Yue was giving love classes to many girls. Liang comes there with a girl, and the girl tells Yue, because of your love class, someone scammed me. You told me to talk openly with him. Yue says, I told you to talk openly, not to open your wallet. Then the girl asks, who will pay for my losses? Then she tells them the boy's name, Zhao Yang. In the next scene, Yue and Liang were together to get the money back from Zhao Yang. Yue says, if he comes the same way, we will snatch his bag. Then Zhao Yang came there, and his mom came out to meet him. Yue goes to him and says, Zhao Yang, do you remember you borrowed 20,000 from me? Zhao Yang angrily says, when did I take money from you? Then Liang comes there and says, those were the medical expenses of someone from his family. If he doesn't pay, who knows what will happen? On hearing this, Zhao Yang's mom starts scolding him. Zhao Yang got disturbed and transferred the money to her. Then both of them left from there. In the next scene, Shu Ling was in a restaurant and waiting for Chi Shu. The Chi Shu arrives. He thinks about what Yue had said, so he tries to behave the opposite of what Shu Ling's expectations were. He picked the cake and started eating it in a weird way, but this made him look even cuter to Shu Ling. After that, Chi Shu starts telling her some theory to make Shu Ling bored, but Shu Ling was also liking it. After that, both of them were leaving from there. Chi Shu started saying, boys should always walk 2 steps ahead of girls. I think you should quit your job. What will you do to earn that much money? It's the responsibility of women to take care of the house. Shu Ling then goes to him and says, I called you for lunch because I had something to tell you. Before Shu Ling could tell him her feelings, Chi Shu asked her to shut up and left from there. He thought in his mind, Shu Ling auntie, I am sorry. Seeing this, Shu Ling started crying. In the next scene, Lu Xiao and Yue are walking together. Lu Xiao says, I heard you created a drama again. Yue says, it's not drama, it's help. I straightened out a guy who was stealing a girl's money. Lu Xiao says, why do you involve yourself so much? You should have told me. Then, they both see a shooting star, and Lu Xiao asks her to make a wish. Yue asks, what wish did you make? Lu Xiao says, that we should grow up quickly and reach the future. Yue thought in her mind, we are already in the future. In the next scene, Yue was exaggerating about the Zhao Yang incident to her roommates. Her friend was making a video of it. Then Zhao Yang's message arrived, mind your own business, otherwise it won't be good. Yue's friend said, it means he is threatening you. Then a girl came there and told them, a boy is waiting for Yue downstairs. Hearing this, her friends thought it must be Zhao Yang. Yue went downstairs angrily to meet him. Before Yue could come, Lu Xiao came there and asked Zhao Yang to stay away from Yue. Zhao Yang says, I have no interest in her, but tell your girlfriend to not come in between my work. Hearing this, Lu Xiao starts calling the police to complain about his fraud. Zhao Yang then asks him to stop and leaves from there. Yue then goes to him and asks, what did you say to Zhao Yang that he left? Lu Xiao says, nothing, just teaching him the law. He then gave her 2 dolls and said, this is us. Yue says, but why am I so big and fat in this? Do I look like this to you? Lu Xiao replies, no, it is because you said that boyfriends should always be behind girlfriends. Then he goes to her and smiles. In the next scene, Chi Shu goes to the lab and sees Lu Xiao and Liang doing an experiment together. He then interferes with them. Liang says, you two look so romantic together. Hearing this, both of them move away. After that, Lu Xiao shows Liang the results of the experiment. Chi Shu then comes in between, and Liang pushes him towards Lu Xiao. In the next scene, Chi Shu goes to meet Liang. Then Liang tells him, seems like you are afraid that their relationship will be bad because of me. Initially, I thought there would be a competition between us, but now both of them have become a couple, so I don't want to get involved, because I don't want to become a tear queen. By the way, instead of paying attention to me, you should keep an eye on Yue. The whole college knows that Yue went to Zhao Yang's house and created a scene. Chi Shu quickly left from there. In the next scene, he goes to Zhao Yang's home. Zhao Yang was not there, but he started talking with his mom. Then Zhao Yang comes there and asks him to talk outside. Outside, he asks him, tell me, why did you come here? Chi Shu replies, I came because I missed you. Your mom doesn't know what kind of guy you are. I won't tell her anything, but promise me that you will leave Yue. Zhao Yang agrees to this. In the next scene, Yue was with Lu Xiao in college. Then Yue's dad came there. After that, both of them went for dinner with him. Then her dad asks, you are Yue's classmate? Lu Xiao says, my height is 188 cm. I am majoring in physics and my dad is a teacher. Yue says, what are you doing? Lu Xiao says, I saw in movies that when a boy meets the parents, he tells them this. Then her dad said, I want you to take care of Yue in college. Lu Xiao says, don't worry, I and Chi Shu will take good care of her. Then his dad asks, who are you talking about? Yue quickly interrupts them and throws food on him and tells him to clean his clothes. But Lu Xiao then tells his dad, is Chi Shu not her cousin? His dad laughs and says, seems like she forgot her cousin's name. In the next scene, all 3 of them went to the mall. Lu Xiao tells Chi Shu, I met Yue's father yesterday. Yue saw a bed and sat there and asked both of them to come there. Then she held their hands and said, Lu Xiao, I want us to have our own house. Lu Xiao says, sure, it will be only ours, right? There will be no one else with us. Yue says, there will be someone else. We will create a baby room for our baby. Chi Shu says, why are you including me in your baby plans? Yue left from there to eat ice cream. After she left, Lu Xiao asked Chi Shu, are you really her cousin? Chi Shu says, yes, but why are you asking? Lu Xiao left without replying. In the next scene, Chi Shu was telling him that, I think Yue's dad has amnesia, because every time I go to their house, he forgets me. He doesn't even know what Yue's subject is. Lu Xiao says, yes, it seems so. After that, Yue came there with ice cream. Chi Shu made some excuse and left from there. In the next scene, Shu Ling was in a supermarket. She saw some snacks and remembered what Chi Shu had said, but she still angrily took many snacks. Chi Shu was also there, but he didn't even talk to her. Shu Ling's phone was off, so she couldn't pay. She left without buying anything. When she went home, Chi Shu was following her and said, it's not safe for you to go alone at this time. Shu Ling said, what difference does it make if I have to go alone? I am used to it. After that, he thought in his mind, Shu Ling auntie, I didn't know you would be so sad after I came back, but our relationship is not possible. In the next scene, Lu Xiao brings breakfast for Yue and tells her, look, to avoid any confusion, I've made a dating schedule for us. Meanwhile, Chi Shu arrives with his luggage and tells her, I'm leaving home. I'm single, so I don't want to disturb you here. Yue replies, but where will you go? We don't even know anyone here. Chi Shu replies, why are you being my mom? Yue thinks to herself, I am your mom. Then Yue tells Lu Xiao, today we'll find a home together for Chi Shu. In the next scene, the manager shows them the house and takes them inside, but a piece of furniture falls down. Yue says, this house is meant for humans to live in. Do you want him to be hospitalized every day? The manager replies, yes, the hospital is nearby. Hearing this, Chi Shu quickly goes to the balcony and says, Shu Ling goes to the hospital from here every day. Then he returns and says, I've decided I'm staying here. At night, he stands on the balcony and watches Shu Ling as she leaves. Shu Ling looks up at the light and Chi Shu quickly hides. After that, Shu Ling leaves. The next day, Yue goes to meet Chi Shu and says, look at this house. The light is not good either. The curtains are not good, nor the wallpaper. Chi Shu replies, what a great day. Why are you here instead of being with Lu Xiao? Suddenly, the furniture breaks again, making Yue angry. Chi Shu sends Yue back home. In the next scene, Lu Xiao visits Yue's home, but Yue is not there. Yue's dad arrives, and Lu Xiao tells him, I am Yue's classmate. Yue's dad replies, you are Yue's boyfriend, right? We had dinner together last time. It seems your memory is also weak. Lu Xiao enters the house and introduces himself again. He says, I thought you had forgotten me. However, Yue's dad tells Lu Xiao all the details about him. Lu Xiao is shocked that they remember everything. Yue's dad asks, why are you being so strange today? Lu Xiao says, because they said you have a disease that makes you forget people. Yue's dad asks, they means? Lu Xiao replies, Chi Shu. Yue's dad says, Yue's teacher. Lu Xiao says, Yue's cousin. Yue's dad goes back home and says angrily, she said, I have a disease that makes me forget people, and she even lied about her teacher. Yue listens to all this while hiding behind a tree. Her father calls her, and her phone rings. She runs away to hide behind another tree. Yue's dad says, if you don't come out, I will come home and teach you a lesson. Hearing this, she runs home quickly. On the other side, Lu Xiao is thinking about Chi Shu. When Yue returns, Lu Xiao asks her in a rude tone, did you go to Chi Shu's home? Yue replies, he doesn't have a habit of staying at home and I was worried about him. Lu Xiao says, I have no problem if he is truly your cousin. Look, if you lie once, you will have to tell many more lies to cover it up. Yue says, yes, I lied to you. My dad doesn't have a disease that makes him forget. He just doesn't care about me. So I lied to you. Lu Xiao says, they know everything about you, even your teacher, Chi Shu. Yue is shocked to hear this. Lu Xiao then asks, what was the need for you to lie? Tell me, what is your relationship with Chi Shu? If he likes you, why did he try so hard to get us together? And if he is your cousin, why doesn't your dad know him? Yue says, Chi Shu is my cousin. Lu Xiao says, I never doubted you, but it seems you don't trust me. Lu Xiao leaves while saying, did you both plan to cheat on me from the beginning? However, Yue doesn't give him any reply, and Lu Xiao goes away. Yue stops him and says, Chi Shu is our son from the future. 30 years later, Lu Xiao is shocked. Then, Yue tells him about time travel. She says, the time travel you're thinking about is 30 years later, and our son is the first one to do it. Lu Xiao had already seen their DNA reports and says, but I still can't believe it. It's all just a theory. Okay, let's say he's from the future, but why did he do that? Yue says, he wanted me to win your heart again, to change my fate. Lu Xiao says, so you just used me to change your fate? Yue replies, yes, it was like that in the beginning, but now I truly love you. However, Lu Xiao is still confused, and he goes back home. Lu Xiao is thinking at home, remembering that Chi Shu had always talked about time travel, and Yue kept talking about her future son. In the next scene, Chi Shu is at the bus stop, watching Zhao Yang leave. He sees that Zhao Yang is following Shu Ling and starts following them. Yue sees Chi Shu and follows him. He then reaches the hospital, where people are talking about someone attacking a nurse with a knife. He quickly goes inside. Lu Xiao arrives with DNA reports. He sees Chi Shu fighting with Zhao Yang because he thinks Zhao Yang attacked Shu Ling with a knife, but Shu Ling arrives and stops them. In the next scene, both are sitting outside the hospital. Yue says, you must be convinced now? Lu Xiao asks, does Chi Shu always fight with people without a reason? Yue says no, but he has a problem with Zhao Yang. Chi Shu arrives and asks, is there some kind of function at the hospital? What are all these people doing here? Yue tells him, Lu Xiao knows everything about you. Then Lu Xiao says, if you're free, let's watch a movie together. He leaves. Chi Shu asks Yue, did he find out that I'm from the future? Why is he so calm? Yue replies, intelligent people are like that. I don't know how you got that intelligence. In the next scene, all three of them are watching a movie. Yue and Chi Shu want to watch the same movie, but Lu Xiao wants to watch a different one. Yue and Chi Shu are acting the same way, making Lu Xiao think to himself, these two have many things in common. But is he really my son? After watching the movie, both of them start crying. Chi Shu gives a tissue to Lu Xiao and says, why are you not crying? Lu Xiao replies, why should I cry? And walks away. Later, when he comes back, Yue says, you were crying secretly in the bathroom, weren't you? I know it's difficult for you to believe, but you have to accept Chi Shu. She takes their hands and joins them. In the next scene, all three of them go to donate blood. They have to answer a lot of blood-related questions. Chi Shu keeps making excuses to leave. He says, I have some work in the lab. Lu Xiao says, I'll go with you. Chi Shu says, I need to go to the bathroom. Lu Xiao says, okay, let's go, then we'll come back and donate blood. Yue says angrily, I understand everything. You are suspicious of him, aren't you? If that's the case, then do a blood test. Both say, I won't. Yue says, see? You both are the same. In the next scene, both of them are in the lab. Chi Shu asks Lu Xiao, don't you have any questions to ask me? Lu Xiao says, even if someone time travels to the past, they can't change the past, because whatever is supposed to happen is already decided. Chi Shu says, this is not a science theory. Do you know how much you have upset Yue? Lu Xiao says, should I travel back 2 hours? Will Yue be happy? He leaves. In the next scene, Chi Shu is thinking alone. He thinks, it will take time for Lu Xiao to accept the truth. I should tell him everything myself. Then, he sees Shu Ling and hides. Shu Ling is listening to the voice message that Chi Shu sent her in the past. She repeats it and cries. Seeing this, Chi Shu is very upset. In the next scene, Lu Xiao is sitting at home thinking why Chi Shu doesn't like Zhao Yang. At that time, his dad comes and says, there is a boy who wants to meet you and he has been drinking a lot. Hearing this, he quickly goes downstairs and tells Chi Shu, you and Yue have a blood relationship, but I will only be your teacher in the future. Hearing this, Chi Shu asks, how did you know the truth? Lu Xiao tells him, when we first met, you told me everything about time travel. Looking at that, it seems like I told you all this in the future. So you and Yue look exactly the same, but you don't look like me at all. Then why did you lie that I was your dad? Can you tell me why you don't like Zhao Yang? Hearing this, he shows him a future video in which Yue is telling her husband, today is New Year's Eve. What could be more important to your family? Then her husband says, I have some urgent work, and I will not be back for a few days. Chi Shu is also listening to this. Then her husband goes outside. Then Yue says, Zhao Yang, if you go out today, I will divorce you. After saying this, she starts crying loudly. Seeing all this, Lu Xiao was shocked. Then, Chi Shu asks him, do you want to know what your future will be like? You will become a famous professor in the future. You will make a time machine with one of your students. That person is none other than both of us. And you will always take care of my mom and me. That's why I thought my mom should have married you. In the next scene, Chi Shu is waiting for Shu Ling on the balcony. Even after a long time, she doesn't come. So he quickly goes to the hospital and asks, where is Shu Ling? Then the nurse says, she came and left. she had a big box in her hand, and maybe the director scolded her. In the next scene, we see that Zhao Yang's dad is asking for money from him and his mom. Chi Shu is also coming from there. He hears the sound of them crying from outside. An auntie is making a video of all this and saying, this is their daily fight. Then he goes there and knocks on the door. Then Zhao Yang's dad leaves from there. Then he sees that Zhao Yang's mom is crying a lot. Zhao Yang takes her to a room inside. Chi Shu starts looking at their photos. Zhao Yang comes there and takes the photo from his hand and puts it back. He also seems very upset. Seeing both of them like this, Chi Shu also feels very bad. In the next scene, Yue and Lu Xiao go to meet Chi Shu, but he starts avoiding them. Then Yue goes to him and says, Lu Xiao said that today is our parent-child time, but Chi Shu still starts to leave from there. Then Lu Xiao comes to him and says, you said that we should live every day of our life as if it were the last day. So if today is the last day, what would you do? Hearing this, he agrees to go with them. In the next scene, the three of them go out together for a walk. They have a lot of fun. In the next scene, the three of them go to a photo studio to get their photo taken. At that time, Chi Shu remembers a scene from the future in which he had come to get his photo taken with his mom. He asks, Mom, are you sure that Dad will come? Then the owner of the shop says, I am about to close the studio. Then Chi Shu says, Mom, we wait for him every year, but he never comes. Can't we just take a family photo of the two of us? After that, they only get a photo of the two of them. Now we see that Yue and Lu Xiao are ready and come. The three of them are getting their photo clicked together. At that time, Chi Shu says in his mind, Mom, your side seat is not empty today. After that, coming outside, Yue says, why did you both make me sit in front? My face looks so big. Then Chi Shu says, I will always keep this photo. Otherwise, I will forget you by looking at the filtered photos of my mom on social media. In the next scene, Lu Xiao and Chi Shu are having dinner together. Then Lu Xiao tells him, if you suddenly disappear one day, then at that time, Yue comes there and asks, who is disappearing? Chi Shu says, you were not there, so we thought that you had disappeared. Then she sees all the students running from there. So she also asks them to go behind them. Now we see that all of them have come to watch Zhao Yang's match, but Yue starts going back after seeing him. Lu Xiao stops her and says, his match is happening with another college. I think we should watch it. Yue says, you two are also cheering for that bad man. Now it seems like I am the bad one. After watching the match for some time, she goes away. In the next scene, Zhao Yang is looking at his wound. Then Chi Shu comes there and says, look, there is not much money in this card, but you can rent a house with this. You said that you have to protect your mother, so this is the best way to save her from daily beatings and hardships. But Zhao Yang refuses to take it. Then he keeps the card there and tells him, the password is your birthday. Hearing this, Zhao Yang says to himself, how does he know my birthday? In the next scene, Lu Xiao tells Yue, here's a gift for you. Look behind. Yue sees that their photo with the three of them was put up in that photo studio. Seeing this, she gets very happy and says, I want this photo to stay here for the next 30 years. How happy Chi Shu will be when he comes here and sees himself. After that, they start getting their photos clicked there. Then, Chi Shu sees them together and gets very happy. He also gets their photos clicked. Now, after this, both of them focus on their studies and complete their graduation. Then, all of them friends get their photos clicked together. After this, Lu Xiao tells everyone, I learned two things in this university, creation and love. Earlier, I used to work by making a perfect plan for every minute of my life. But then, a strange person entered my life. He always spoiled my plans. It was a little strange, but I was happy. Today is our last day at the university, so I want to take 5 minutes of all of you. Then, he goes in front of Yue and gives her a ring, saying, Yue, will you marry me? Yue says yes to it. Then, Lu Xiao puts the ring on her finger. Then, everyone asks them to kiss each other. Then, Lu Xiao kisses her. In the next scene, Yue is looking at the photos at home. She asks Chi Shu, why you are not in a single photo? Then Chi Shu says, maybe you have forgotten that I clicked all the photos. Then Yue says, it's okay. I'll take lots of your photos when I and Lu Xiao get married. After saying this, she goes to the washroom. After that, Lu Xiao comes there and tells him, I have got the invitations made. Our wedding is on 17th October. Then Chi Shu starts saying, earlier, I thought that you would change your mind after knowing the truth. Lu Xiao says, yes, I thought the same earlier, but then I thought it would be very selfish. At that time, Yue comes there and asks, what are you talking about behind my back? Then Chi Shu says, about the bachelor party before the wedding. Anyway, you two talk. I will go to distribute the cards. After saying this, he starts to go with the cards. Then, Yue says, why are you taking 2 cards? Who else do you know besides Shu Ling? Then he goes away without replying. In the next scene, he goes to the hospital to meet Shu Ling. He asks a doctor about her. The doctor says, she has resigned. I have not had any contact with her since then. Hearing this, he leaves from there. In the next scene, he goes to Shu Ling's home, but she doesn't open the door. Then, Chi Shu starts saying, I know that you don't want to open the door, but your best friend is getting married, so you should be there in the biggest happiness of her life. Then, he puts the card under the door and goes inside. He tells her, it's good that this door is between us. I am going and want to say goodbye to you. But then, Shu Ling comes from behind and asks, where are you going? After that, both of them go inside the house. Shu Ling opens the fridge to give him something to eat. Then he sees that there are absolutely no snacks in it. Seeing this, Chi Shu gets very happy and tells her, you have changed a lot. You have started taking care of yourself. Then, Shu Ling says, you taught me all this. Along with this, she also tells him that she has passed her exam and she is 20 years old, so she is going to university to study. Then she sees their wedding card and says, those who are destined to be together always stay together, but it is not in everyone's destiny. Hearing this, Chi Shu says, I know that you like me. Then Shu Ling says, but I am not waiting for an answer now. Were you talking about going somewhere? Then Chi Shu says, are you free tomorrow? In the next scene, they are going to meet Yue's dad to tell him about their wedding. When Yue's dad comes out of the company, Lu Xiao says, we both are getting married. Then his dad asks, when are you getting married? Then Yue tells him, 17th October. In the next scene, we see Zhao Yang and his mom, who are going to shift to a new house. His mom is looking at their old house. Then Zhao Yang tells her, Mom, sometimes we should throw away our old things. After saying this, he makes her sit in the car. At that time, Chi Shu was there to give him the invitation. He goes to Zhao Yang and congratulates him. Then Zhao Yang tells him, I will return all your money. From now on, I will give you little money every year. Hearing this, Chi Shu says, you have changed, Zhao Yang. I am very happy. Then he gives him their wedding invitation. Zhao Yang says, but why should I go to their wedding? They didn't even invite me. Then Chi Shu says, we will be very happy if you come. Then he starts going after saying yes. At that time, Chi Shu stops him and hugs him. In the next scene, we see that Yue is wearing a wedding dress. She is crying and calling out to Chi Shu, but he is not there. Now, we are shown a flashback scene where Lu Xiao went to the place where he first met Yue for their pre-wedding photo shoot. It was the same place where he splashed water on her. At that time, Yue arrives in a wedding dress and says to Lu Xiao, I still feel like I'm dreaming. Then Lu Xiao said, today we are just taking wedding photos. The actual wedding is 2 days later, right? Yue said, if Chi Shu didn't do all this, we wouldn't be together. Lu Xiao said, fate decides who we are destined to be with, and it's gonna happen no matter what. If you didn't take the initiative, maybe I would have. In the next scene, Chi Shu is waiting for Shu Ling, and then she comes out nicely dressed. After that, they both go to eat ice cream together and have a lot of fun. Chi Shu thinks to himself, I'm sorry, I can't accept your love, but I believe we will meet again, maybe in a different time and space. We will be together in a different kind of relationship. Later, when they are about to leave, Chi Shu looks at the photo studio where their photos were taken. Looking at the photo, Shu Ling says, you three really look like a family. Then she thanks him and says, you have taken good care of me. Someone told me that, as much as people are happy together, they are going to be sad when they say goodbye. So let's say goodbye here. Chi Shu said, I'll drive you home. Shu Ling said, it's not necessary. We will be seeing each other at the wedding, right? There's no way we won't meet again. On the other hand, they were taking photos, and Chi Shu and Shu Ling arrive at the scene. Later, Chi Shu takes photos with them. He also asks Shu Ling to take photos, but suddenly he faints, and Yue also faints. In the next scene, Yue is in the hospital, and a doctor gives the report to Lu Xiao. Yue wakes up and asks, where's Chi Shu? Is he okay? Did he also faint because of weakness like me? Lu Xiao said, you didn't faint because of weakness. It was because of your pregnancy. He shows her the pregnancy report. She is very happy after seeing it. Later, she goes to Chi Shu, looks at him and says, I know you are happy, but I am happier than you. This means we will meet again soon. In the next scene, Chi Shu is looking at their photo. The owner comes and asks, do you want to take a photo? Chi Shu says, no, but can you give me this photo? In the next scene, Yue is eating snacks and Lu Xiao arrives and stops her. Yue says, where's Chi Shu? Don't you think he's been acting weird lately? Do you think he feels like I won't love him as much after having a baby? Lu Xiao said, stop thinking about Chi Shu right now and take care of yourself. In the next scene, Chi Shu comes back home. Yue was sleeping. He sees her diary, which has all the things written about Chi Shu. He gets emotional and starts crying. Now the day of their wedding arrives. Yue's 3 friends are there taking photos, and Zhao Yang is also there. Liang comes to Zhao Yang and asks, "Do you want to faint at other people's weddings?" Zhao Yang and Liang also attended their wedding. Liang said, "I know it sucks, but a good person fulfills the wishes of others, and that's what I'm doing too." Xu Ling is looking at Chi Shuo's photos. Then she sees Chi Shuo was making preparations for the wedding. Yue and Lu Xiao arrive. Yue asks, "Where's my dad?" Lu Xiao said, "He must be with my dad." Then her friends arrive. Yue says to Xu Ling, "Stay in the center. I will give you the bouquet after the wedding." Lu Xiao comes and says, "There's some bad news. Both of our dads are drunk." Yue said, "No worries. I have another plan." In the next scene, Chi Shu takes Yue to the stage. Yue says to Chi Shu, "Thanks for coming back." Chi Shu said, "I would cross the ocean for you." Then he gives Yue's hand to Lu Xiao. They both smile, looking at each other. Later, Lu Xiao puts the ring on her finger and they kiss. Chi Shu was very happy. Suddenly, he remembers his mother's death and says, "Finally, I changed my mother's fate." After saying that, he faints. After the wedding, Yue asks some girls, "Have you seen Chi Shu?" She calls him, but his call is not connecting. She asks her 3 friends, and they say that they haven't seen him. Hearing this, Yue goes out to find him and cries, calling out to him. She calls him again, but his call is not connecting. She sits down and starts crying. Lu Xiao arrives, and Yue cries and says, "I can't find Chi Shu anywhere. Did he tell you anything?" Lu Xiao gives her the diary and says, "He asked me to give this to you." It was the same diary that Chi Shu wrote daily. She starts crying even more looking at it. In the next scene, Yue is having a nightmare and crying in her sleep. Chi Shu arrives and asks, "Mom, what's wrong? Did you have a bad dream?" "I'm here with you." Yue said, "I dreamt that you were going away from me and disappearing." Chi Shu said, "Mom, where will I go? Today is your wedding. Wake up quickly." She opens her house door and sees a vast ocean. She sees Chi Shu going into the water. She screams and says, "Chi Shu, why are you standing in the middle of the ocean?" Chi Shu said, "Mom, look, I did it. We will be a family again in our next life." Yue screams and asks him to come back, but he keeps going into the water. She sits down and starts crying. Now we see the present scene where Yue is in the hospital. She wakes up and asks, "Where's Chi Shu?" She gets off the bed and goes to find him. On the other hand, we see Xu Ling, who is missing Chi Shu. She remembers all the moments she spent with him. She starts crying looking at his photo. In the next scene, Lu Xiao tells Yue that he just came to change your fate, and now he has gone back. Yue says, "It's not weird at all. I've never heard such an interesting story. I didn't know you could create such a good story. Well, your story is over. Now tell me, where's Chi Shu?" Lu Xiao said, "Look, your fate has been changed. Now we cannot go back. He's gone." He hugs her. Yue cries and says, "I understand. He always said that I'm a bad mother. That's why he left me, right?" In the next scene, we see Lu Xiao waking up and sees that Yue is not on the bed. He goes out and sees that she is cleaning the house. He says, "Today's your first day in the lab after the wedding." Then they sit down for breakfast. She sees the sauce on the tablecloth, and Lu Xiao said, "I will get another one when I come back." Yue says, "No, Chi Shu spilled that sauce." In the next scene, Lu Xiao goes to the lab, and he tells the professor, "I think someone can time travel to a parallel universe. If he goes back to the past and makes changes, his future will also be changed. But his own parallel universe remains the same as he left it. It means he only changed our future and not his. He is still alive in his original universe." The professor finds his words weird. Lu Xiao said, "I need to tell my wife this immediately." After saying that, he leaves. In the next scene, Yue wakes up and accidentally calls out to Chi Shu. She realizes that he is gone. She sees her own diary, in which she wrote about how Chi Shu came to change her fate. Thinking about it, she leaves home quickly. In the next scene, she is wearing her school uniform and standing outside Zhao Yang's house. She wants Chi Shu to come back and change her fate again. Zhao Yang comes and asks, "Yue, what are you doing here?" Yue said, "I need your help. Please marry me." Zhao Yang said, "I was at your wedding just 2 days ago." Yue said, "You said you loved me, right? I'm accepting you." Zhao Yang said, "That was all in the past. I was after you because you were rich." Yue said, "Okay, I will give you all my money." Now you will date me, right? He is about to leave. Yue grabs his shirt and cries, but he leaves her hand and goes. She goes to her school. The guard stops her. Yue said, I'm a middle school student. Do you remember Mr. Wang? I troubled him a lot when I was in school. He must remember me. He allows her to go inside. She meets Mr. Wang. He says, you are the only student who came to meet me after graduation. You troubled me a lot. Yue said, can I come back to school? The principal said, are you kidding me? Yue said, I want to go back to high school. I want to live that life again because I was a huge loser back then. If he sees me like this, he'll surely come back to change my fate. She starts crying. On the other hand, Lu Xiao comes back home and calls out to Yue, but she's not there. He sees her diary and goes to find her. Now we see Yue thinking about every moment she spent with Chi Shu. Lu Xiao arrives and starts crying seeing her state. He hugs her. When they come back home, she finds nothing of Chi Shu there. She yells at Lu Xiao, where did you throw all his things? Lu Xiao said, I need to tell you something. He didn't disappear. He just went to his parallel universe. But Yue asks him for key. He gives her a key and starts crying. Yue takes out Chi Shu's diary. All the words in it start disappearing. Then she calls Shu Ling and says, Shu Ling, you remember Chi Shu, right? She asks all her friends the same thing, but no one remembers him. Then she says to Lu Xiao, even if everyone in the world forgets him, I will always remember him. He met me for the first time on September 17th. He said he is my son. He came through time travel to change my destiny. Remembering all this, she starts crying a lot, and Lu Xiao also starts crying with her. Now we see a scene 5 years later where their son has grown up. Lu Xiao says, don't be picky with food like your mom. Then Yue also comes there, and their son says, Dad, can we go to the beach, please? So Lu Xiao says, today, I have an important task, but tomorrow I will definitely take you to the beach. Saying this, he goes to his work. After this, Yue sees a notification of her novel and thinks to herself, as the writer of this novel, I don't want him to disappear from this world. Just then, her son comes there with a box and asks, Mom, tell me what's inside this. Yue opens the box and takes out Chi Shu's diary. Now all the words in it had disappeared. The next day, they go to the beach with their son. Lu Xiao said, I think we will soon succeed in making a time machine. Yue said, aren't you scared that our son will come from the future and stop me from marrying you? Lu Xiao said, it's not possible because our being together is in our destiny. Their son bumps into a boy. It was Chi Shu. He apologizes to him. Then he also apologizes to Yue and Lu Xiao and leaves. But before leaving, he turns back and looks at them. Yue also looks at him. They both smile looking at each other. Chi Shu leaves with a girl. Maybe she was his girlfriend. And the drama ends here. If you want more dramas like this, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching.